Soundtrack Secrets.
In early April 1994, Seattle was wrapped in the gray skies of spring. Inside a quiet house on Lake Washington Boulevard, the world's biggest rock star was withdrawing from the spotlight, carrying a storm that few could see. Kurt Cobain had just returned home after a brief stay in rehab. Many hoped it would be a turning point, a chance for him to find peace. But instead, the weight he carried seemed heavier than ever. Friends, managers, and family had encouraged him to continue treatment, but Kurt walked away. That choice sent a ripple of concern through everyone close to him. Courtney Love, his wife, grew increasingly worried. Phone calls went unanswered. Kurt's whereabouts were uncertain. The silence around him became louder each passing day. Reports surfaced that he had been spotted in Seattle, wandering the streets alone. Fans who recognized him never imagined those encounters would be among their last glimpses of the Nirvana frontman. It felt like a countdown had begun, though no one realized it. Kurt kept to himself, scribbling in his journals, avoiding contact, retreating deeper into solitude. From the outside, the Lake Washington home looked serene, spacious, elegant, overlooking the water. But inside, Kurt was locked in a private battle. The pressures of fame, the relentless grind of the music industry, and his own struggles with health and addiction left him feeling trapped. To the world, he was a legend. To himself, he was exhausted. Close friends recalled how Kurt confessed he no longer found joy in the music that once defined him. Losing that spark made everything around him feel even darker. After leaving rehab, panic spread among those trying to help him. His management even hired a private investigator to track him down. Courtney reached out to the police, voicing her fears. She knew something was wrong, but no one could predict just how tragic the next days would become. Fans following the news only knew fragments. To them, Kurt was just struggling with addiction. The deeper reality remained hidden from the public eye. In private writings later revealed, Kurt expressed frustration and detachment, words that painted a portrait of isolation. The house itself became part of the story. Its large windows looked out on a beautiful lake, but inside was an atmosphere of silence and unease. Visitors described a strange contrast, the home's calm exterior masking the heavy energy within. Kurt spent much of his time alone in his room or tucked away in private spaces. Daily routines vanished. It felt as if he was waiting, though even he might not have known for what. At the same time, the media focused on gossip. His marriage to Courtney, speculation about Nirvana's future, endless chatter that missed the real crisis. Behind the scenes, however, those close to him sensed something far more serious. Kurt was at the lowest point of his life. And so, in those quiet days of early April, Seattle became the stage for one of rock history's darkest chapters. The countdown ended with news that shook the entire world. But before the headlines, there were only silence, unanswered calls, and the lonely final days of Kurt Cobain in Seattle. To the outside world, Kurt Cobain had everything. By the early 90s, he was the face of a new generation, leading Nirvana from dingy clubs to arenas packed with screaming fans. Yet inside, the success that millions envied felt more like a cage than a dream. The breakthrough of Nevermind in 1991 changed his life overnight. Songs like Smells Like Teen Spirit became anthems, and suddenly Kurt was no longer just a musician. He was a voice for disillusioned youth across the globe. But the more people projected their hopes onto him, the more suffocated he felt. He never wanted to be a spokesman for an entire generation. He only wanted to make music. Fame came with a price. The media swarmed his personal life, every word and gesture dissected, every flaw magnified. For someone already sensitive to criticism, it was overwhelming. At concerts, Kurt often appeared conflicted, torn between the thrill of performing and the burden of expectations. On stage, he could roar with raw energy, but offstage, he retreated into himself. Friends described him as shy, even fragile. The spotlight only magnified his insecurities, pushing him deeper into struggles he tried to keep hidden. One of those struggles was addiction. What started as a way to numb physical pain and emotional turmoil soon became a heavy chain pulling him down. Despite attempts at treatment, Kurt found it difficult to break free. Each relapse left him feeling weaker, ashamed, and more isolated. His marriage to Courtney Love was another source of both comfort and chaos. They shared passion and creativity, but also turbulence that played out under relentless media scrutiny. Tabloids painted them as the grunge version of Sid and Nancy, fueling controversy and judgment from the public. For Kurt, the intrusion only deepened his distrust of the outside world. Behind closed doors, arguments and reconciliations blurred together. The pressures of fame, addiction, and parenthood weighed heavily on their relationship. Through it all, Kurt kept writing. His journals reveal a man searching for meaning, trying to balance vulnerability with anger, love with despair. In those pages, he wrestled with questions of authenticity. Could he stay true to his art while trapped in a system he despised? Could he be a father and husband while battling his own demons? His words were often poetic, but tinged with exhaustion. They show glimpses of a man who longed for peace but couldn't find it within the noise of fame. Interviews from the time echo that tension. Kurt would smile shyly, joke with reporters, but often let slip hints of how uncomfortable he felt in the role he'd been forced into. He spoke openly about feeling misunderstood, how the media reduced him to headlines and ignored the complexity of who he was as a person. For many, Kurt Cobain was a rock god, but in reality, he was an artist who never stopped feeling like an outsider, even at the peak of his success. The contradictions tore at him: adored yet lonely, successful yet dissatisfied, idolized yet deeply insecure. By the spring of 1994, those contradictions had reached their breaking point. Kurt was still creating, still scribbling lyrics and thoughts, but his spirit was wearing thin. Inside the troubled mind of Kurt Cobain, the battle was never just about fame or music. It was about finding a place in a world that never seemed to understand him. When the news broke in April 1994, it spread like wildfire. The world had lost one of its most influential musicians, and the shock was immediate. Fans in Seattle gathered in disbelief, while radios and TV stations across the globe interrupted their programs to deliver the devastating announcement. Outside Kurt's home and around Seattle, crowds began to form. Many were holding candles, some holding Nirvana records tightly to their chest, as if the music itself could provide comfort in a moment of unbearable loss. Local news showed scenes of fans openly weeping on the streets. For many, it felt like losing a voice that had spoken for an entire generation. The grief was raw, and the atmosphere heavy with sorrow. In Seattle Center, thousands gathered for a public vigil organized in Kurt's memory. Courtney Love's recorded message was played for the crowd, her voice trembling as she read excerpts from Kurt's final words. The scene left fans in tears, cementing the moment as one of the darkest in rock history. MTV aired non-stop Nirvana videos and tributes, acknowledging the immense impact Kurt had in shaping the sound of the early 1990s. The band's music suddenly took on an even deeper meaning, with every lyric echoing louder than before. Around the world, similar vigils and gatherings took place. In London, Tokyo, Sydney, and Berlin, fans came together, united by grief and music. It became clear that Kurt wasn't just a Seattle icon. He was a global figure whose reach went far beyond grunge. Musicians across genres spoke out, many describing him as a reluctant hero who never wanted the spotlight but couldn't escape it. From U2 to Pearl Jam, countless artists paid tribute, calling his passing not just a personal tragedy, but a cultural one. Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam described feeling devastated, saying he understood the pressures Kurt had faced, but wished things had turned out differently. Their bond as leaders of Seattle's music scene made the moment even more poignant. Even Michael Stipe of REM, who was working on a potential collaboration with Kurt, revealed his heartbreak. He later said he had hoped music could help Kurt heal, but those plans would never see the light of day. The shock wasn't limited to musicians. Politicians, writers, and cultural critics all weighed in. Time magazine published a cover story calling Kurt the voice of a generation, a phrase that both honored and haunted him. For young fans especially, Kurt's passing felt deeply personal. Many saw themselves in his struggles, his anger, and his vulnerability. His absence left a void that no other artist could truly fill. Unfortunately, the tragedy also gave rise to conspiracy theories. Some questioned the circumstances around his death, pointing fingers at the music industry, his relationships, or even suggesting foul play. These theories, while widely debunked, refused to fade, adding another layer of mystery to his legacy. Documentaries, books, and investigative reports later tried to unravel the truth, but none could change the reality. The world had lost Kurt far too soon, and no theory could bring him back. Despite the darkness, tributes became a way for fans to celebrate his life. Bands covered Nirvana songs in concerts, murals were painted, and fans kept his lyrics alive on posters, journals, and even tattoos. Each year on the anniversary, gatherings still happen in Seattle. Flowers are left at Veretta Park, near the house where Kurt spent his last moments. It has become a sacred place for fans to reflect and connect with his memory. Beyond the grief, Nirvana's music began to take on a timeless quality. Albums like Nevermind and In Utero continued to sell millions, and new generations discovered Kurt's voice as if he were still alive, speaking directly to them. His words about alienation, identity, and authenticity remain strikingly relevant. For teenagers picking up a guitar today, songs like Smells Like Teen Spirit and Come As You Are feel just as urgent as they did in 1991. Tributes continue across all forms of art. From covers by contemporary bands to biographical films and documentaries, Kurt's presence lingers in culture. He became more than just a musician. He became a symbol of honesty in an often superficial industry. For many, the real legacy of Kurt Cobain is not just in the music, but in the reminder that even icons are human. His struggles revealed the cost of fame, the weight of expectation, and the fragility of life. And yet, despite the tragedy, Kurt's voice continues to echo. Every time someone presses play on a Nirvana track, his spirit comes alive again, raw, vulnerable, and defiant. His story may have ended, but his influence remains eternal. Kurt Cobain's story is one of brilliance and fragility intertwined. He became the reluctant voice of a generation, capturing raw emotions with an honesty that few artists ever dared to show. His struggles with fame, inner battles, and the pressures of the music industry revealed the human cost behind the spotlight. Yet, beyond the tragedy, Kurt's music continues to breathe life into every generation that discovers it. His words remain anthems for the lost, the searching, and the misunderstood. In the end, Kurt Cobain left more than a legacy. He left a reminder that authenticity can echo louder than perfection, and that even in silence, his voice will never fade.